Namamishwaram sa Chidananda Rupam Lasat Kundalam Gokule Bhrajamanam.
Namamishwaram sa Chidananda Rupam Lasat Kundalam Gokule Bhrajamanam.
Jasoda Bhiyolukhala Dhavomanam Paramrishtamatan Tato Drutta Gopya.
Jasoda Bhiyolukhala Dhavomanam Paramrishtamatan Tato Drutta Gopya.
Namamishwaram sa Chidananda Rupam Lasat Kundalam Gokule Bhrajamanam. Rudantam Muhurnetram Jugmam Mrijantam Karam Bhoja Jugmena Shatanka Netram.
Rudantam Muhurnetram Jugmam Mrijantam Karam Bhoja Jugmena Shatanka Netram.
Muhushashokam Potri Rekhanko Kantra Sthitagraiva Damodaram Bhokti Badham.
Muhushashokam Potri Rekhanko Kantra Sthitagraiva Damodaram Bhokti Badham.
Namamishwaram sa Chidananda Rupam Lasat Kundalam Gokule Bhrajamanam. Iti Driksha Lila Bhirananda Kunde Shadhosang Nimajjantam Akhapayantam. Tadiyeshitageshu bhaktoirjitatam Puna prematastam shatabritti vande.
Tadiyeshitageshu bhaktoirjitatam Puna prematastam shatabritti vande.
Namamishwaram sa Chidananda Rupam Lasat Kundalam Gokule Bhrajamanam. Varam Deva Mokshang na Mokshavadhim va Nachannam Drine Aham Varishadapiha.
Varam Deva Mokshavadhim va Nachannam Drine Aham Varishadapiha.
Idante Gopurnatha Gopala Bala Shadame Mana Shavirastam Kimanai.
Idante Gopurnatha Gopala Bala Shadame Mana Shavirastam Kimanai.
Namamishwaram sa Chidananda Rupam Lasat Kundalam Gokule Bhrajamanam. Idante Mukham Bojam Attanta Nilai Britam Kuntalai Snigdha Raktaischa Gopya.
Idante Mukham Bojam Attanta Nilai Britam Kuntalai Snigdha Raktaischa Gopya.
Muhushchumbitam Bimba Raktadharam Me Manasya Virastam Alam Lakshalabhai.
Muhushchumbitam Bimba Raktadharam Me
Namami Sharam Sa Chidananda Rupa Lasat Kundalam Gokule Bhajamana Namo Devo Damodaraya Ananta Vishnu Proshida Prabhu Dukha Jalabhimagna
Namo Devo Damodara Ananta Vishnu Prasida Prabhu Dukha Jalabhimana
Kripa Drishti Vrishtapi Dinam Batanu Grihane Shamamagga Medhakshi Drishya
Vipavishti Vishati Dinam Bhatano Vihane Samamukha Medhakshi Disha
Namami Sharam Sa Chidananda Rupa Lasat Kundalam Gokule Bhajamana Kuberatmajo Baddha Murtaiva Jadvat Tayamachito Bhakti Bhajo Krito Cha
Vyatmaja Vada Mutaiva Jadva Tayamchito Bhakti Bhajo Krito
Tatha Prema Bhakti Shakam Me Prajacha Namokshe Groho Mesti Damodareha
Tata Prema Bhakti Sharange Prajacha Namaste Brahmesti Damodarena
Namami Sharam Sa Chidananda Rupa Lasat Kundalam Gokule Bhajamana Namaste Studamne Spuradipti Dhamne Tadiyodharayatha Vishasya Dhamne
Namaste Sudhamne Suradipti Dhamne Tadiyodayayatha Vishashadhamne
Namo Radhikayai Tadiya Priyayai Namo Ananta Lilaya Devaya Tubhyam
Namo Radhikai Kavyapriyai Namo Radhalilaya Devaya Tubhyam
Namami Sharam Sa Chidananda Rupa Lasat Kundalam Gokule Bhajamana Namami Sharam Sa Chidananda Rupa Lasat Kundalam Gokule Bhajamana Namami Sharam Sa Chidananda Rupa Lasat Kundalam Gokule Bhajamana
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna and welcome to all the wonderful devotees online. Thank you very much for your attendance and regularly coming online so that we can associate together and relish Srimad Bhagavatam. Today we're going to be going through Canto 1, Chapter 6, verses 33 and 38. We are concluding this chapter, conversation between Narada and Vyasadeva. Om Jnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Udapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Scha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priyam Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubheva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Sharva Shastra Piyusham Sarva Vedeka Satphala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnadya Sarva Lokayatri Prada Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavato Prabhu Kalidando Didaditya Shri Krishna Parivartita O Srimad Bhagavatam, O nectar churned from the ocean of all Vedic scriptures, O most prominent transcendental fruit of all the Vedas, O you are enriched with the jewels of all spiritual philosophical conclusions, O you who grant spiritual vision to all the people of the world, O light breath of the Vaishnava devotees, O Lord, you are the sun which has arisen to dispel the darkness of Kali Yuga. You are actually Lord Krishna, who has returned amongst us. Paramananda Pataya Prema Varsha Savayate Sarvada Sarva Sevyaya Shri Krishnaya Namastute. O Srimad Bhagavatam, offer respectful obeisance unto you. By reading you one attains transcendental bliss. For your syllables rain pure love of God upon the reader. You are always to be served by everyone, for you are an incarnation of Lord Krishna. Madhyakabando Mad Sangim Mad Guru Mad Mahadana Man Nishtaraka Mad Bhagya Mad Ananda Namastute. O Srimad Bhagavatam, O my only friend, O my companion, O my teacher, O my great wealth, O my deliverer, O my good fortune, O my bliss, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Asadu sadhu tadayin attini chochataraka anamunchakada chinmam premna ritkatayospura. O Srimad Bhagavatam, O giver of saintliness to the unsaintly, O uplifter to the very fallen, please do not ever leave me. Please become manifest my heart and my throat, accompanied with your love of Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Janmadyasya Yotonvayaditarata Charte Swabhignaswara Tene Brahma Hidaya Adikavaye Muyanti Yatsuraya Tejovari Mridam Yatha Vinimayo Yatra Sargom Risha Yamna Svena Sada Nirasta Kuhakam Satyam Parum Dhimahi. O my Lord Shri Krishna, son of Vasudeva, all pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisance unto you. I meditate upon Lord Shri Krishna because he is the absolute truth and primal cause of all causes, of the creation, sustenance, and destruction of the manifested universes. He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations and is independent because there is no other cause beyond him. It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahmaji, the original living being. By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed in delusion as one is bewildered by a delusory representation of what is seen in fire, land seen on water. Only because of him do the material universes temporarily manifested by the reactions of the three modes of nature appear factual, although they are unreal. I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Shri Krishna, who is eternally existent in the transcendental abode, which is forever free from illusory representation of the material world. I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth. Prayanalpaisha sabhya kalavasmin yuge jana manda sumanda mattayo manda bhagyupadrita. O learned one, in this iron age of Kali, men have but short lives. They are quarrelsome, lazy, misguided, unlucky, and above all, always disturbed. Narayana namaskritya narachaivam narotamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of God and Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Savai pumsa paro dharmo yato bhaktiradoksha jaya hoitukiya pratyata yatma suprasiddhati. The supreme occupation dharma for all humanity is that by which men can attain to loving devotional service under the transcendent Lord. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted to completely satisfy the self. Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janayatyu Savairagyam Jnanam Chayat Ahoitukam. By rendering devotional service under the personality of God at Shri Krishna, one immediately acquires causeless knowledge and detachment from the world. Vedanti tattvavidas tattam yajgnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavaniti sabhyate. Learned transcendentalists who know the absolute truth call this non-dual substance Brahman Paramatma Bhagavan. Shru 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 Sadadanasya Vasudeva Kataruchi Syan Mahatsevaya Vipra Punya Tirtha Nishevanat. O twice born sages, by serving those devotees who are completely freed from all vice, great service is done. By such service, one gains a penalty for hearing the messages of Vasudeva. Shrinvatam Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Ryadantastoya Bhadrani Vidunoti Suritatam. Shri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is Paramatma, super soul in everyone's heart, and the benefactor of truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment. From the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtues when properly heard and chanted. Nastaprayashu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatu Tamasloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. By regular attendance in the class on the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotees, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, whose praise or transcendental songs is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We are continuing Srimad Bhagavatam based on the teachings of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Hare Krishna. So let us hear some feedback from the devotees. Chapter 6, verses 23 to 30, 26 to 33. What you took home, what you learned, what really caught your attention, what you found very interesting. Namavati Radhika says, become so addicted to chanting the holy name that your hands does not want to come out of your bead bag. So that's what we can pray for during the month of Kartik. Oh baby Krishna, oh Mother Yashoda, this is my desire. I want to become Nam addict. I want to become addicted to the holy name. Please bless me. Yes, and that is perfection. That is perfection. From that perfection, everything will manifest. So that's our desire. Okay. Madhacharya Siddhi says, the impurities in our heart cannot go hand in hand with love for Krishna. And that's true. And we're going to speak a little more about that, because even if one has impurities, it does not mean that one cannot achieve pure love of Krishna. But we definitely need to purify our heart. For us, we need to go over Nartan Nivriti to get love of Krishna. But we're going to speak a little about that further today. Shamananda Prabhu says, Hare Krishna Prabhu, thanks for sharing Srimad Bhagavatam everyone weekly. Thank you for the great picture Srila Prabhupada with the Srimad Bhagavatam on the weekly presentation. It's 46 years to the month that this photo was taken in October 1975 at the Mula Street Yeovil Temple when Srila Prabhupada was in Johannesburg. That is true, that picture was taken in Yeovil. Srila Prabhupada just received the freshly printed 5th Canto from Los Angeles and is relishing going through the pages. Maybe you can share something with the devotees on this. Thank you very much, Shamananda Prabhu, for highlighting this. Yes, Prabhupada was in Yeovil when he received this book, and Srila Prabhupada was going through. Whenever Prabhupada would receive one of his books, published books, Prabhupada would be in ecstasy. And Bhargava Prabhu was taking photographs. He was taking these photographs. In fact, there's a pastime of Bhargava Prabhu taking photographs, and Prabhupada chastised him that why you keep taking photographs of me. It's like you're shortening my life with this, with these flashes. Because Prabhupada's interest was giving Krishna to the world. He was not interested in presenting himself to the world, even though really we need the mercy of the Bhakti Vedantas to get Krishna. But Prabhupada wanted, because this was Prabhupada's humility, Prabhupada's purity of heart, and that is pushing Krishna in front and not himself. People in the material world who have this desire for pratishta, they want to push themselves and put Krishna behind. In the name of Krishna, they'll use Krishna to go forward and put Krishna in the back. Prabhupada, by his pristine example, Prabhupada always put Krishna in front. He could have easily called this movement the International Society for Prabhupada Consciousness. Easily. He was in charge. He's the founder. But no, Krishna consciousness. Because he's the servant. He's the ambassador of Krishna, coming to give Krishna. So when Bhargava Prabhu was taking photographs, Prabhupada chastised him. And Bhargava Prabhu got so, he was heartbroken that that evening he left. And the Prabhupada, when Prabhupada found out where that Bhargava wasn't at a temple, Prabhupada was very, very concerned. And they sent devotees to go look, Pusta Krishna Prabhu and them to go look for Bhargava Prabhu. And eventually they found him. So, and then Prabhupada, explained to him that, he because this is natural. This is just the humility of Srila Prabhupada. Yeah, I'm nothing. I'm insignificant. I'm useless. Like Prabhupada wrote in his letter, insignificant beggar. So this is a wonderful pastime. Yeah, so thank you for highlighting that. Nalini Kataprabhu says, Lord Chaitanya taught how to clean our hearts by cleaning the Gundichan temple. Cheto Darpana Marjanam. So that pastime was illustrated by or lived out by Shijan Mahaprabhu to share how we should cleanse our heart. Mother Lash, clean the heart so that Krishna, Radha and Krishna can be enthroned there, become addicted and obsessed with Sri Krishna, to hear and chant the glories of Krishna and his associates. Yes, that should be our aspiration, our desire. And somehow or other we have to increase the greed for that, because it's not easy. It's not a simple thing to achieve. It's the most glorious position. So in order to do that, one's heart needs to be a proper receptacle. One needs to have the proper consciousness and attitude to attract Krishna's attention so that we can get to this level. Shama says, by being casual, you become a casualty. Yes, Bhavana Prabhu says, the enthusiasm that caught Narad following meeting the Lord through the Lord's voice and qualities, he acquired that lead to his final transition from material body to spiritual body. That was very amazing. I was so astonished to learn the time it takes before creation is manifested and how Narad appears in the mind of Brahmana. So he appears in the mind of Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma is the first created being. So the word Brahmana is like a priest, and Brahma is the creator, the secondary engineer, Lord Brahma. And Narada Muni, with the 10 other sons, are the mental sons of Lord Brahma. And Narada Muni was talking about secondary destruction. So there's primary destruction and there's secondary destruction. The primary destruction is when the whole universe is destroyed, and secondary destruction is when Brahma takes rest in the evening. When he goes to rest, then his nighttime, there is minor destruction of the universe. Then he gets up. So in the morning when he gets up, he's got some work, got some service. So in this way, this is what Brahma service is, creation every time when he wakes up. Shama says, by Krishna's inconceivable mercy, we are part of his pastimes, even though we are in the conditioned state. Yes. And that is glorious, and more glorious is when we realize that we have the opportunity to directly partake in Krishna's pastimes. Mother Lash said, the message we are hearing now is not new. We have heard it before. We are hearing it again through the life of Narada Muni. And throughout the Srimad Bhagavatam, we will hear it repeatedly. Very true. And someone may say, but why? Why do we have to keep hearing the same thing? Can't we listen to something new? So the reason we're hearing the same thing, firstly, is because it's always Navayovana, it's always fresh. But more than being ever fresh is we don't get it. I can speak for myself, thick skull. And therefore, for something to go in my heart, it needs to penetrate the skull area. And sometimes it goes in and comes out from this ear. Sometimes it goes in and gets stuck in here. Sometimes goes in, gets stuck here, and then gets forgotten. We forget. So we wanted to go into the ear and go to the heart and strike a chord. When you hear something and you now that now it makes yes, that conviction, that realization, that is what's required. When that happens, now we actually heard. So therefore, we repeatedly hearing the same message, naturally from different perspectives, from different angles, in different ways, from different devotees, different pastimes, but ultimately the essential message is the same for us to really, really let it hit home that yes, this is what we're supposed to be doing. Wonderful. Thank you very much for everyone's feedback. We will now continue with today's section, verses 34 to 38. 34, the most suitable boat to cross the material world, constant chanting of the Lord's activities. So as many of you had shared, see this point is coming up again. Then 35 to 36, no satisfaction by any other path except bhakti. So when someone dies, generally in the material sphere, those who are really not God conscious, when someone dies, what do their loved ones do? And someone dies, what do the loved ones do? Yes, Madachana Siddhi responded. And Shama so cry, lament. Yes, this is what they do. They cry and they lament. Now, when Narad Muni died, what did we do? And we got a hint from Bafana's message, feedback. When Narad Muni died, what was the response? Anyone? When Narad Muni died, what did he respond? Joy. Yes, we rejoiced. We were happy. We were amazed. Right? Why? Because Narad Muni died and immediately got his spiritual form. He was a maidservant, son. He died and immediately got his spiritual form as the traveling spaceman, transcendental spiritual spaceman. Shama says we wanted to hear more, wanted to hear about his glory, his glories of passing, or his glorious activities. Yes. So this is because death is not the end. And really, true death, real death, is getting our spiritual body. Otherwise, we're really caught up in this material world, and until we come to the level of perfection, of spiritual perfection, our Narad Muni attained, so that we can also get our spiritual body, we will have to keep taking birth again. This, in regards to receiving a spiritual form, and Narad Muni travels across the creation of Krishna, glorifying with his Veena, glorifying the Lord. And Srila Bhakti-Siddhanta Maharaj coined this term, Jivanta Mridanga. We're going to speak a little bit more about this as well. So there's three types of Mridangas now. Okay, three types of Mridangas. There's the normal Mridanga that we know, that we play kirtan with, right? So that's one type of Mridanga. Balaram Mridanga, like we have. Tilak Mridanga, that's the normal Mridanga that we play in kirtan. Lord Nityananda, the Panch Tattva, the devotees, they use that for kirtan. Then, and that's broadcasting the glories of Krishna, broadcasting kirtan, but few meters. Then there's Brihat Mridanga, printing press, or the publication of books, book publication. Srila Prabhupada, Srila Bhakti-Siddhanta Maharaj emphasized this to Srila Prabhupada, and Srila Prabhupada took it to heart. Printing books. Whenever you get money, print books. Why? Because this is Brihat Mridanga. This can resound the glories of Krishna far and wide, beyond the room or your house, far and wide, across oceans, different countries. Now, more powerful, listen to this, more powerful than the Brihat Mridanga is Jivanta Mridanga. More powerful than Brihat Mridanga is Jivanta Mridanga. Jivanta Mridanga means the pure devotees like Narad Muni, Srila Prabhupada, who travel the world broadcasting the glories of Krishna. And they are far more powerful and potent. And I'm going to share and link this when we come to the appropriate verse. So therefore, in essence, we are very happy. We glorify devotees that leave this world in full Krishna consciousness. That is the perfection of life. And that should be our prayer, our humble submission to the Lord, that my Lord, may I achieve your lotus feet to serve you eternally. Text 34. So Narad Muni is now concluding. He's shared his life's journey, his life's experience, what had happened to him. He's received a spiritual form, and now he's free to travel to any parts of the creation. He came out from Lord Brahma's mind, not due to past karma, but simply as pastimes or as service in other pastimes of the Supreme Lord. The other sons that came out, they have specific duties in relation to spreading karma kanda or jnana yoga or different activities. They're not totally perfect like Narad Muni. Narad Muni is completely above the modes of material nature, totally transcendental. The others still are within the realm of the material creation. Some may be able to go to the higher planets. They can stay, well, most of them are in the higher planets. Others can go to Vaikuntha, up to the door, but they cannot enter, just like the four Kumaras. But Narad Muni, he can go anywhere in the creation, anywhere in the spiritual, in Vaikuntha, anywhere in Dwarka, anywhere in Mathura, anywhere in Goloka Vrindavan. Completely free, no visa required. Text 34. Etad Dyatura Chitanam Matra Sparsh Shechaya Muhu Bhava Sindhu Lavo Drishto Hari Charyanuvarnanam. It is personal experience by me that those who are always full of cares and anxieties due to desiring contact of the senses with their objects can cross the ocean of nishads on a most suitable boat, constant chanting of the transcendental activities of the personality of Godhead. So Narad Muni is now speaking to Vyasadeva and concluding from his personal experience. And if we're intelligent, knowing what we know now about Narad Muni and his exalted position, if Narad Muni says, from my experience, this is the situation. If we're intelligent, we will take that experience of Narad Muni to heart. Not like, well, Narad Muni, you don't know everything. My situation is different. See, I'm special, I'm unique, So I know somebody is intelligent, we can take this advice from Narad Muni, that for someone who is caught up, matrasparshas, someone who's engrossed in bringing their senses in contact with the sense objects, and what will that bring? That'll only bring anxiety. That's all. Etadyatura chittanam, anxiety, cares and worries. And this will constantly plague the living entity until he takes that suitable boat, which is constant chanting of the transcendental activities of the Lord. Hari Charyanu Varnanam. So this is the real boat. This is the real boat. Prabhupada in the purport says, the symptom of a living being is that he cannot remain silent even for some time. He must be doing something, thinking of something, or talking about something. Generally, the materialistic men think and discuss about subjects which satisfy their senses. But as these things are exercised under the influence of the external illusory energy, such sensual activities do not actually give them any satisfaction. On the contrary, they become full with cares and anxieties. This is called Maya, or that, or what is not. And that which cannot give them satisfaction is accepted as an object for satisfaction. So this is the network. This is the network of illusion that everyone is caught up in. Etadyatura chintanam. This is certainly, this is the network of illusion that everyone is caught up, thinking that the objects of satisfaction is going to give me, or the objects of materials, in the material world, the material objects will give me full satisfaction, and they do not give satisfaction. In fact, because they are within the material realm, because they are influenced by the modes of material nature, the illusory energy, they will never ever satiate and satisfy the living entity. It's like oil and water. Yet, everyone is brought up in this world thinking, let's get things, let's enjoy with things. So this is the illusory nature of entanglement that people are and engrossed in. And this is due to matra sparshas. Bhagavad-Gita, Krishna says, matra sparshas tu kuntaya shitoshna sukha. That we need to tolerate this urge to come in contact with sense objects. This is very, very important. And now Muni is sharing that the boat that can help us is constant remembrance, constant recitation, anuvarnanam, constantly reciting the glories of Krishna. This constant repetition, this is the best boat for us to cross over, plava, the boat, to cross over Bhavasindhu, material world. Srila Prabhupada, one time in India, it was Radha Ashtami, it was very cold. And Atma Tata Prabhu shares this pastime, how day after he got initiated, he was busy fanning Srila Prabhupada. And, like he says, making a number, like he's the expert Chamara Pujari there. And it was cold, so Prabhupada looked at him. And, he got a little stunned by that look, so immediately started going very slow. But he was going so slow because he was shocked by Prabhupada's look that the flies were on Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada looked at him again. So now he didn't know what to do. So Prabhupada was chanting Jarad Madhava. Then Prabhupada stopped. And Srila Prabhupada said, thank you. And then Prabhupada looked at him. Because the night before, he got initiated and he had a sore in his mouth. So he couldn't brush properly. And he came to receive his beads during initiation. So he came very close to Srila Prabhupada. And Srila Prabhupada smelled that he didn't brush properly. So Prabhupada in Hindi asked him, why are you not brushing properly? And he said, in Hindi, he said infection. So Prabhupada then, gave him the beads and initiated him. So that next night, the next night, when Srila Prabhupada was doing the program, so after he chanted Jarada Madhava and said, thank you, then Prabhupada looked at him and said, and Prabhupada pulled his hand out. And first he said, the material life means infection. And then Prabhupada said, pulled his hand. He said, you scratch, you get some satisfaction. You scratch more, you get some satisfaction. You scratch more, and you stop. Not because you are satisfied, but because there's blood. So this is material life. It's an infection. And we are living an infectious life. Now, if you see this picture of the small girl who has an infection, she's not happy. So we are living in this world, what to talk about COVID and any other infectious disease that will come. This is all just byproducts of the greatest infection that we have, this material infection. And all the other small, different, by the way, byproducts, ramification of the greatest infection in this material existence, this is insignificant. We need to remove the disease at the root. And the secret of removing at the root is constant chanting of the glories of Krishna. Prabhupada continues. So Narad Muni, by his personal experience, says that satisfaction for such frustrated beings engage in sense gratification is to chant always the activities of the Lord. So that's the medication. That's the prescription. This is what we want to become attached to. This is what we want to become convinced of. First, be convinced that you are infected. Be convinced that I'm diseased. And then once you're infected, once you know that, okay, I'm diseased, I need help. Because unless and until you're not convinced that you're infected in this material world, if you're thinking, yeah, I'm free, I'm happy, there's no issues, then you'll never be happy. Prabhupada says, two people are happy in this world: the fool and the pure devotees. The fool, because he's thinking, yeah, I'm not diseased, I'm enjoying. And the pure devotee who's freed from the material infection. The point is that the subject matter only should be changed. No one can check the thinking activities of a living being, nor the feeling, willing, or working processes. But if one wants actual happiness, note, if one wants actual happiness, one must change the subject matter only. Instead of talking of the politics of a dying man, one might discuss the politics administered by the Lord himself. Instead of relishing activities of the cinema artists, one can turn his attention to the activities of the Lord with his eternal associates like the gopis and Lakshmis. The Almighty Personality of Godhead, by his causeless mercy, descends on the earth and manifests activities almost on the line of the worldly man, but at the same time extraordinary, because he is Almighty. He does so for the benefit of all conditioned souls, so that they can turn their attention to transcendence. I'll repeat that sentence again. The Supreme Lord, he does so for the benefit of all conditioned souls. That means you and me, so that they can turn our attention to transcendence. Sometimes people say, well, where's the Lord? Why is he not merciful? Why is he not showering his mercy upon me? Well, the Lord did. He came 500 years ago, 5,000 years ago to perform his pastime so that we can turn our attention to those pastimes and that way become transcendental. By doing so, the conditioned soul will gradually be promoted to the transcendental position and easily cross the ocean of missions, the source of all miseries. It says easily. So the process of becoming free from this material conditioned infectious life is very, very easy. The challenge is that our desire is weak. So we need to strengthen our desire, strengthen our conviction of this. Then it's very easy. This is stated from personal experience by such an authority as Sri Narad Muni. And now Prabhupada is concluding. And generally his first sentence and his last sentence of practically every purport is like the punchlines. So we see Prabhupada started off with a punchline. So Narad Muni, by his personal experience, says that the satisfaction for such frustrated beings engaged in sense gratification is chant always the activities of the Lord. That was the punchline. And Prabhupada ends off with the punchline. And we can have the same experience also if we begin to follow in the footsteps of the great sage, the dearmost devotee of the Lord. So the experience that Narad Muni received, we can go through that same experience. The question is, do you want it? That's the question. Are you convinced that what the pure devotees like Narad Muni, Srila Prabhupada, all the acharyas in our line, Lord Chaitanya himself, God himself, imagine God himself is coming and telling you, okay, you don't accept a devotee, you don't accept Narad Muni, God himself is coming and telling us. Now, if we cannot listen to God, if we cannot heed God's advice, then what can be done? So we should, therefore Prabhupada said, Krishna consciousness for Susu Medasa, for those who are a little intelligent. Right? Those who are intelligent, those who can contemplate and understand and grab this understanding, they can embrace this process and the pastimes of the Lord, that the Lord personally came to shower this material world. We take advantage of that. So Krishna can lift us out of the omniscience of material existence simply by the glorification process, glorifying, having kirtan, Bhagavatam, glorification. Now someone may say, well, that's nice, but I don't have enough subject matter about Krishna to speak about. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada spent sleepless nights giving us Srimad Bhagavatam. giving us Chaitanya Charitamrita. This morning I was sharing, just consider if somebody had to tell you, okay, can you please sacrifice your sleep so that you can help me with my project or my life, etc. And you need to sacrifice your sleep for 10-15 years, not sleep at all for the next 10-15 years. You'll tell that person, I think you're crazy. Yet Srila Prabhupada sacrificed his sleep for us. He sacrificed his sleep to give us Srimad Bhagavatam, to give us his Bhaktivedanta purports for us. How much love Srila Prabhupada must have had for us to do that. Even it's described that the closest, the most purest aspect of pure love in this pure love for Krishna that exists in the material world is the love a mother has for a child. Yet we find that even when the child is born and the child keeps the mother and father up, in the beginning it's nice, wonderful, but then slowly they become frustrated. Parents that have children can tell me if I'm saying the truth, because I'm not saying it from experience. I'm saying it from what I've heard. That they eventually it's like, I hope my kid doesn't cry during the night. You must just sleep right through the night, because it's frustrating to get up and break your sleep, because people want their sleep. Yet Srila Prabhupada sacrificed his sleep for you and me. Therefore, we have to take advantage of that sacrifice. Be grateful for that sacrifice. And in this way, at least we can hear and chant the glories that Srila Prabhupada gave us in his Bhaktivedanta purports. In terms of accepting the boat, Narad Muni is saying that this is the most perfect boat. There's two beautiful excerpts from Srila Prabhupada's purports. One is Bhagavad-Gita 251, where it says, for one who has accepted the boat of the lotus feet of the Lord, who is the shelter of the cosmic manifestation, and is famous as Mukunda, or the giver of mukti, the ocean of material world is like the water contained in a calf's hoofprint. Param Padam, or the place where there are no material miseries, or Vaikunta, is his goal, not the place where there is danger in every step of life. So this is the boat that we have. And this boat that we have, the acharyas have used this boat, and it's explained that this boat can take the devotees across the material ocean to the opposite side, to the spiritual world. And it goes to the opposite side, and when it reaches the opposite side, mystically it ends up on the opposite shore in the material world again, for others to take this boat. And in this excerpt that I'm going to read now, we find that the acharyas, like Srila Prabhupada, they can change the characteristics of this boat according to time, place, and circumstance. And when they can change the nature of the boat, that boat is as effective as the boat that Krishna sanctioned and authorized. So, purport Srimad Bhagavatam 10:231. One can achieve the seed of Bhakti Lata, devotional service, by the mercy of Guru and Krishna. The duty of the Guru is to find the means according to the time, the circumstance, and the candidate by which one can be induced to render devotional service with Krishna, which Krishna accepts from a candidate who wants to be successful in going back home, back to Godhead. After wandering throughout the universe, a fortunate person within this material world seeks shelter of such a guru or acharya, who trains the devotee in suitable ways to render devotional service according to the circumstances, so that the Supreme Personality of Godhead will accept service. This makes it easy for the candidate to reach the ultimate destination. The Acharya's duty, therefore, is to find the means by which the devotee may render service according to references from Shastra. Rupa Goswami, for example, in order to help subsequent devotees publish such devotional books as Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Thus, it is the duty of the Acharya to publish books that will help future candidates take up the method of service and become eligible to return home back to Godhead by the mercy of the Lord. In our Krishna conscious movement, this same path is being prescribed and followed. Now Prabhupada gives the detail of that path. Thus, the devotees have been advised to refrain from 4 sinful activities: illicit sex, intoxication, meat eating, and gambling, and to chant 16 rounds a day. These are bona fide instructions. Because in the Western countries, constant chanting is not possible. One should not artificially imitate Haridas Thakur, but should follow this method. Krishna will accept a devotee who strictly follows the regular principles and the method prescribed in the various books and literatures published by the authorities. The Acharya gives the suitable method for crossing the ocean of missions by accepting the boat of the Lord's lotus feet. And if this method is strictly followed, and the followers will ultimately reach the destination by the grace of the Lord. This method is called Acharya Sampradaya. So, constant chanting of the holy name of Krishna is the perfection. Just like Srichat Mahaprabhu says, he will not eat from anyone's hands if they have not been chanting 64 rounds a day. That's the boat. Srila Prabhupada, as the Acharya, according to time, place, and circumstance, has modified the feature of the boat, following the 4 principles, chanting 16 rounds a day, and trying to, another letter Prabhupada, trying to help the mission of Krishna consciousness. If we just do that, then we are safely situated in this boat that will take us across back to the spiritual world. Naturally, we can do more because we have the capacity to do more. So we should strive to do as much as we can. And in this way, we can perfect our life. Last week, we also shared how Narad Muni, he perfected his life through Vaidhi sadhana. So here in this logo, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj presented the logo for his Gaudiya mission. And we find in this logo, there's 2 sides. One is the side of Vaidhi sadhana bhakti, and the other side is Raganuga sadhana bhakti. In terms of Vaidhi sadhana bhakti, we find the worship of the deities in the mood of Lakshmi and Narayan, so with awe and reverence. We have the paraphernalia, the bell to worship, so rules and regulations, and the scriptures, especially Pancharatrika scriptures related to worshipping the deities. This is the guiding platform that we are guided by. So this is Vaidhi sadhana bhakti. Now, by following Vaidhi sadhana bhakti, our spiritual journey starts with Vaidhi sadhana bhakti, but we do not want to stay on that platform. We want to use Vaidhi sadhana bhakti naturally through the holy name, through the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. We want to use these personalities and come to Raganuga bhakti, the path of Rag. Rag means attachment. So I don't want to just follow or be in this boat, right, and just follow rules and regulations, which is good as to begin with. But if I just follow rules and regulations and perfect my life with rules and regulations, I will end up in Vaikuntha. I want to use rules and regulations and then develop rag, develop attachment. Okay, so that attachment to hearing and chanting must be there. Just like, when we get initiated, we promise to chant 16 rounds. But that promise to chant 16 rounds is duty. It's a promise. I'm duty bound. And therefore, being duty bound, I chant 16 rounds, which is conducive and very good and important. But I want to move beyond that. I want to come to the path of rag. That means attachment to chanting. Now it's not because I made a vow and promised to my spiritual master, the Vaishnavas, the deities, the devotees, the fire, yajna, etc., that I'm chanting. But because I want to chant. Okay, that attachment, that love for wanting to do that, that means one is now becoming healthy in spiritual life. Another aspect of being situated in this boat that Srila Prabhupada and our previous acharyas have given us is that we can, by this process of ragmag, we can enter into Vrindavan. And what facilitates our attachment is very interesting. Here, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj gave, the bells, incense, and the scriptures on deity worship. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj for Ragmag, he gave us Srimad Bhagavatam, okay, the Bhakti Shastras, Rasa Tattva scriptures, like Srimad Bhagavatam, and Mardanga, Kirtan, and the printing press. So these aspects, Srimad Bhagavatam, so always associate with Srimad Bhagavatam, having the printing press, Priyat Mardanga, so to broadcast the glories through book publication, book distribution, Priyat Mardanga, and Kirtan, the devotees chanting, Jivanta Mardanga. So this is the focus, glorification of the Supreme Lord through Bhagavatam, through preaching, through Kirtan, developing an attachment to these services, the greed and attachment. And in this way, we will slowly perfect our life by the mercy of the holy name to enter into Vrindavan. Text 35. Yamadibir yoga pate kama loba hato muhu mukunda sevaya yatvat tata mada nasamyati. It is true that by practicing restraint of the senses by the yoga system, one can get relief from the disturbances of desire and lust. But this is not sufficient to give satisfaction to the soul. For this satisfaction is derived from devotional service to the personality of Godhead. So now Muni is sharing that for somebody engrossed in sense gratification, he's going to be plagued with anxiety. Now, even if somebody is practicing yoga, the first limb of yoga is yama. So therefore, this verse starts with yama adibir, yama and everything else, yoga pate of the yoga system. So even if somebody is practicing the yoga system, especially a Stanga yoga system, which is a practice of restraint, still that process will be lacking for giving satisfaction. So another very, very powerful statement, Narad Muni. Sense gratification is not the right path. Even if one is practicing yoga and Astanga yoga and its different limbs, even then it falls short. It helps to some degree to give you relief from desires and lust, but it cannot give satisfaction. And we know that Srila Prabhupada said that the perfection of spiritual life you can measure by how much you are satisfied, or the perfection of life. You can understand success in life, you can understand perfection in life to the degree you get satisfaction. So Prabhupada in the purport says, yoga aims at controlling the senses. By practicing the mystic process of bodily exercise in sitting, thinking, feeling, willing, concentrating, meditating, and at last being merged into transcendence, one can control the senses. The senses are considered like venomous serpents, and the yoga system is just to control them. On the other hand, Narad Muni recommends another method of controlling the senses in the transcendental loving service of Mukunda. The personality of Godhead. By his experience, he says that devotional service to the Lord is more effective and practical than the system of artificially controlling the senses. So now Narad Muni is saying, yoga, no. Stanga yoga, no, not that. Don't go for that process. Right? Devotional service, it's more effective and more practical. In the service of Lord Mukunda, the senses are transcendently engaged. Thus, there is no chance of their being engaged in sense satisfaction. The senses want some engagement. To check them artificially is no check at all, because as soon as there is some opportunity for enjoyment, serpent-like senses will certainly take advantage of it. There are many such instances in the history, just like Vishwamitra Muni falling a victim to the beauty of Menaka. But Thakur Haridas was alert at midnight by the well-dressed Maya, and still she could not induce that great devotee into her traps. And we will hear many of these points elaborated through the pastimes of these different personalities in the chapters of the Bhagavatam. So here Prabhupada is mentioning Vishwamitra, the Subari Muni, who practically stayed underwater, the Muna, for thousands of years. Right? And then he just saw 2 fish copulating, and that was it. Time out. His meditation was broken. What talk about us in the material world, where there's the opportunity to see indecent scenes all over, right? So the hope for people in the material world is very, very slim if they following the path of yoga. People are into yoga for health purposes, but ultimately it's just wasting time. Rather, we should focus, as Narad Muni is saying, engage them in devotional service. The whole idea is that without devotional service of the Lord, neither the yoga system nor dry philosophical speculation can ever become successful. Pure devotional service of the Lord without being tinged with fruit of work, mystic yoga, speculative philosophy is the foremost procedure to be attained. It's the foremost procedure to attain self-realization. Such pure devotional service is transcendental in nature, and the systems of yoga and jnana are subordinate to such a process. When the transcendental devotional service is mixed with subordinate process, it is no longer transcendental, but is called mixed devotional service. Srila Vyasadeva, the author of Srimad Bhagavatam, will gradually develop all these different systems of transcendental realization in the text. So Narad Muni is naturally concluding, convincing Srila Vyasadeva and concluding in terms of what he should be focusing. He should not be focusing on fruitive activities. He should not be focusing on yoga, because these, they do not give complete solutions. So this aspect of mixed bhakti, mixed devotion, Prabhupada talks about in Srimad Bhagavatam 10:10, 20-22. By karma mishra bhakti, one is elevated to celestial kingdom. That means if you practice in the process of bhakti, right, with a little fruitive mentality, then you can go to heavenly planets. In the early days, when in fact, Shamana Prabhu has brought this point about the past time about Srila Prabhupada in the 5th canto. So when Srila Prabhupada brought the 5th canto out, then in fact, when he was transcribing, when he was transcribing the 5th canto, then the devotees were reading the transcriptions, and the transcriptions or the translations of the 5th canto was, the heavenly planets, what's there, the damsels, the somaras, the pleasure that's there in heavenly planets. You can have, it's described, you don't need to go through the experience of giving birth. As soon as there's birth, the child is immediately 16 years, instant. No changing nappies, no sleepless nights, nothing, right? There's no old age. As soon as you're about to die, instantly you die, you grow old and you die. So when they were hearing all these different descriptions of heavenly damsels and the license to drink somaras, etc., devotees were developing a desire to go there. So Prabhupada, eventually stopped giving extensive purports to these chapters because their bhakti was becoming mixed with fruitive results, karma. Nice to go there. I like it. It's a nice place. So that's dangerous. Therefore, Prabhupada encouraged us, our prayer, what we're asking from the Supreme Lord is, please engage me on devotional service. This is all I want. So by Karma Mishra Bhakti, one is elevated to the celestial kingdom. By Jnana Mishra Bhakti, one is able to merge in the Brahman effulgence. And by Yoga Mishra Bhakti, one is able to realize the omnipotency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But pure Bhakti does not depend on Karma, Jnana, and Yoga, for it simply consists of loving affairs. And this is the key. These processes are not related to the heart. Yoga is about self-restraint. It's restraining your senses. So consider if you have a fire suit. So somebody gives you a fire suit, and then they give you a nice plate of prasad, nice cake, kachori, samosas, and they say enjoy. It's very difficult to enjoy through the fire suit. Similarly, we all have this suit, this material body, and therefore to truly enjoy through this body is not possible for the soul. Yes, you can tantalize your senses, but it's flickering, it's temporary, and it's basically leads to more suffering. We need to remove this material body, or we need to spiritualize the material body through devotional service. So the yoga process of restraining the senses means it's restricting the senses and not employing the senses in the service of Krishna. And you can't achieve satisfaction from restraint. You can only have satisfaction from engagement. But the appropriate engagement is Mukunda Sevaya, by engaging in the service of Mukunda. So Narad Muni is advising, this is the best. This is the best process. Srila Prabhupada would give the example of when people would come to one yogi to give him money, and his hands would go behind his back. And people would think he's so advanced. Just see, he doesn't even want money. Prabhupada said, no, if somebody had to come to give us money with both hands, I would grab. Because I know Lakshmi belongs to Narayan. I would use every paisa in the service of Narayan. So this is perfection. How to use all our senses in Krishna's service. Use our abilities, talents, everything, ourselves in devotional service. So there's here Narad Muni sharing two different approaches. The one approach is an approach of power and control seeking. You are performing yoga, different other process to show how powerful you are, how I can on my own strength achieve perfection. I'm great, I'm powerful. I can do these things, I can control my senses, etc. or Gyani. I'm very intelligent. I know so much. So this is power and control seeking approach. Our approach is grace seeking, mercy seeking. Like Prabhupada says, we are mercy cases. So we are mercy cases. This is the proper path. And this is in relation to what Madhacharya Siddhi said in terms of, yes, we want to become purified of our sins, purified from all impurities in our heart. But even if that's not the case, you can still achieve perfection if you understand this principle. That yes, I'm fallen, I'm a rascal. My Lord, please help. And the Lord helps. It's not on your own strength that you achieve perfection. It's not on your own strength that you purify your heart. It's not on your own strength that you go back to the spiritual world. No. It's based on grace. It's based on mercy. So we seeking grace. We are engaging in activities simply to invoke the mercy and compassion of Guru, Hari, Guru, and Vaishnavas. This is our process. So our attitude and consciousness needs to be like that. In the verse, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur comments on this verse in relation to this line, Kama Lobha Hato Hu. That even Lobha, even greed, because greed for mundane sense gratification, this is dangerous. And even though yoga tries to reduce this greed, but as soon as the opportunity arises for the senses to be engaged in lust, one will be trapped. So lobha, the greed that we need, this greed to get mercy, this greed to understand that I'm useless, I'm fallen, I'm a rascal, my Lord, please, please, please give me mercy. Right? This is the greed we want to develop. And this greed comes through association of the Vaishnavas. And our Muni says, Mukunda Sevaya Yadvat. Mukunda also means one who gives the power to become free from all obstacles. In that way, liberates one from all obstacles. So Krishna has that. Krishna is all omnipotent. He's all powerful. He's all omnipresent. He's everywhere. So therefore, we take every opportunity to surrender ourselves to the lotus feet of Krishna, begging mercy, begging his blessings and potency and power, be empowered so that we can progress on this path of bhakti. So it's a grace-seeking process, not a power and control seeking. Now, we can take that grace-seeking to a higher level, the highest level. And what's the highest level? Prabhupada in Srimad Bhagavatam 2.3.23 says, in Vrindavan, all the pure devotees pray for the mercy of Srimati Radhavani, the pleasure potency of Lord Krishna. Srimati Radhavani is the tender-hearted feminine counterpart of the Supreme Whole, resembling the perfectional stage of the worldly feminine nature. Therefore, the mercy of Radhavani is available very readily to the sincere devotees. And once she recommends such a devotee to Lord Krishna, the Lord at once accepts the devotee's admittance into his association. The conclusion is, therefore, that one should be more serious about seeking the mercy of the devotee than that of the Lord directly. And by one's doing so, by the goodwill of the devotee, the natural attraction for the service of the Lord will be revived. So we seek the blessings of Srimati Radhavani, especially during this month of Kartik. This is her month. Therefore, whatever service we're doing, she is very pleased. And if she is pleased, then we invoke the compassion and mercy of Krishna. This way, we can perfect our lives. Text 36. Sarvam tad itam akyatam yat prastaham tvayanagga janma karma rahasyam me bhavatas chatmatoshanam. O Vyasadeva, you are freed from all sins. Anaga means freed from all sins. Thus, I have explained my birth and activities for self-realization, as you have asked. All this will be conclusive for your personal satisfaction also. So the statement, the third line, Janma Karma Rahasyam Me, very, very interesting statement by Narad Muni. So he's saying, I have shared, you are freed from sins, you are completely liberated, and I've explained my birth and activities for self-realization as you've asked, and all this will be conclusive for your personal satisfaction. So this statement, Janma Karma Rahasyam Me, Narad Muni is saying that this, what I have shared, my personal experience, this is a very, very powerful. And Srila Prabhupada in the purport will share with us, and then I'll explain why is it more powerful. The process of devotional activities from the beginning to the stage of transcendence is all duly explained to satisfy the inquiries of Vyasadeva. He has explained how the seed of devotional service was sown by transcendental association and how they gradually develop by hearing the sages. The result of such hearing is detachment from worldliness, so much so that even a small child could receive the death news of his mother, who was his only caretaker, as the blessing of God. And at once he took the opportunity to search out the Lord. A sincere urge for having an interview with the Lord was also granted to him. Although it is not possible for anyone to see the Lord with mundane eyes, he also explained how by execution of pure transcendental service, one can get rid of the fruitive actions of accumulated work, and how he transformed his material body into a spiritual one. The spiritual body is alone able to enter into the spiritual realm of the Lord, and no one but a pure devotee is eligible to enter the kingdom of God. All the mysteries of transcendental realization are duly experienced by Narad Muni himself, and therefore by hearing such an authority, one can have some idea of the results of devotional service, which are hardly delineated, even the original texts of the Vedas. In the Vedas and Upanishads, there are only indirect hints to all this. Nothing is directly explained there. And therefore, Srimad Bhagavatam is the mature fruit of all the Vedic trees of literatures. So when you approach the Vedas and the Upanishads, they are given in sutra form. They're given in code form. And it's very difficult to codify it. That is why when people read the Vedas on their own, they generally, it's very difficult for them to come to the right conclusion, because it's coded. You need someone who knows the Vedas, who've realized the Vedas through their own experience, like Narad Muni, to be able to codify it and share. So the Vedas, which is what Narad Muni gave, which is what Srila Vyasadeva gave. So Srila Vyasadeva basically gave all the Vedas to Upanishads, and he was not satisfied. So now Narad Muni is telling him that I've shared my Janma Karma Rahasyam Me. I've shared my birth, my activities, and my whole journey, as Prabhupada nicely summarized here. And this is Rahasyam. This is the secrets that you are getting from my personal experience, which you will not even get from the Vedas that you have given. And the Vedas that you have given have not made you satisfied. But my life story, Bhavatas Chatmatoshanam, I'm sure it has satisfied you. Why? Because the devotee's experience and a devotee's life story is far more relishable and far more powerful than just the texts of the Vedas. So Narad Muni is telling Srila Vyasadeva the power of hearing about the glories of devotees in terms of their journey and spiritual practice of devotional service, which is described in the Vedas in its code form that most people don't get. And therefore, to hear about the pastimes and the glories of the devotees, this is the most powerful way, the most secretive way for one to perfect one's life. Therefore, we're going to hear how Srila Vyasadeva compiled the Bhagavatam, which is basically pastimes of different devotees. When we hear Srila Prabhupada's life and pastimes, it's so relishable, so relevant, so applicable. It nurtures us so wonderfully. So this is Janma Karma Rahasyam. This is the secret. And we find all this has been now distilled and given to us by Srila Vyasadeva in Srimad Bhagavatam. Therefore, Srimad Bhagavatam is the mature fruit of the Vedas. What you cannot get from the Vedas, you can get from the Bhagavatam, because the Bhagavatam is sharing the life stories and experiences, the janma and karma of the Lord and his devotees especially. Hearing about the devotees, associating with the devotees, and especially hearing how they came to Krishna consciousness, we hear so many wonderful stories like that of devotees joining. It's nectar to the heart, and it's very purifying and powerful. So the book Bhagavat, or the Priyat Mardanga, publication of books, is very important. At the same time, the Jivanta Mridanga, the glories of the pure devotees, that is also very powerful. Srila Prabhupada, in the early days, when he was in the West, he was reading, using Dr. Radhakrishna's Bhagavad-Gita. And Prabhupada was even happy to use his verses, translation, with Prabhupada's purports. And Prabhupada told him, we can even print this like this. And the devotees said, but Srila Prabhupada, if you print this, it'll be like plagiarism, copy. Prabhupada said, what do you mean plagiarism? It's Krishna's words. So you can't be charged for using God's words. But we see how Prabhupada was happy to use the verses of Radhakrishna translation with his Bhaktivedanta purports, which means that even if somebody picked up this book with the wrong, incorrect translation, just the verses, the Bhaktivedanta purports are more important and would give him the proper guidance. You find that many people print the Bhagavad-Gita just with the verses without purports. Therefore, they don't get it. You need the explanation. You need the pure devotee to expound on the verses. So that is why we are so fortunate that we have, for every verse, we have a purport. And the purports are far more powerful, potent, and beneficial for us than the verses themselves, which are, even though they are Krishna's words, they're transcendental. But purports are very appropriate. And Prabhupada's purports are his personal association. So now we're getting the Jivanta Mridanga, we're getting the personal association of Srila Prabhupada even through the Priyat Mridanga. It's like a double dose and double barrel to defeat the conditioned souls in this world, or rather to defeat the impurities of the conditioned souls, because we don't want to kill the conditioned souls. We want to kill the conditioning, the living entities. Text 37. Sutta vacha Evam sambhasya Bhagavan Narado Vasavi Sutam Amantrya Vinam Ranayan Yo Yatricha Yatri Yo Yatrichiko Muni. Sutta Goswami said, thus, addressing Vyasadeva, Srila Narad Muni took leave of him, and vibrating on his Veena instrument, he left to wonder at his free world. Prabhupada talks about freedom. People want freedom. So here's real freedom. Every living being is anxious for full freedom because that is his transcendental nature. So why are people fighting for freedom? We want liberation, we want freedom. Because the soul by nature is free. Therefore, you're looking for freedom. But you're not going to find it in the material world. And this freedom is obtained only, note, only through transcendental service of the Lord. So as long as you do not come to this point of transcendental service of the Lord, you have no freedom. You can show plug boards, freedom, freedom. You can fight, you can, toy, do whatever you want. You're not getting it. You can create a riot. You're not getting it. The only way to get freedom is to transcendental service of the Lord. Illusioned by the external energy, everyone thinks that he is free, but actually he is bound up by the laws of nature. A conditioned soul cannot freely move from one place to another, even on this earth. And what to speak of one planet to another. So we are not free, we are bound. Sometimes people challenge, now I'm free, I can do anything. Try controlling your bowels, your bowel movements, see if you're free. Or just tell them, don't blink, keep your eyes open. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and see, are you free? You will be forced to blink. So you are bound, you are controlled by the material nature. What to talk about from one place to another? What to do one planet to another? There are restrictions. But a fully fledged free soul like Narada, always engaged in chanting the Lord's glories, is free to move not only on earth, but also in any part of the universe, as well as in any part of the spiritual sky. We can just imagine the extent and unlimitedness of his freedom, which is as good as that of the Supreme Lord. There is no reason or obligation for his traveling, and no one can stop him from his free movement. So that statement of Srila Prabhupada, there is no reason or obligation for his traveling, and no one can stop him from his free movement. There is no reason or obligation. That's why in this verse, Sutta Goswami says, Yo Yadrichuko Muni. Yadrucha. This word Yadrichuka, Yadrucha, means that means no obligation. The devotee of the Lord is moving with no agenda, no motivation, or no reason, freely. And it's ascribed that this means that we can meet devotees because of Yadricha. We meet devotees just by luck. So it's not by arrangement. It is simply good fortune, simply our luck that we've met a devotee. Sukadev Goswami, by Yadricha, by good fortune, by luck, happened to come where Maharaj Parikshit was. So it was Maharaj Parikshit's good fortune and luck that it so happened that at that point, Sukadev Goswami was there. It's our good fortune that Srila Prabhupada came into our life. It's not your good karma. It's not some arrangement. It is by luck. means by good fortune, yet richer. So we are blessed, so to speak. Just, how they say, at the right time in the right place. So by some good luck, we happen to be in contact with Srila Prabhupada. And Srila Prabhupada then, when we open ourselves to Prabhupada's teachings, now we can take advantage of his association. Similarly, the transcendental system of devotional service is also free. It may or may not develop in a particular person, even after he undergoes all detailed formulas. Similarly, the association of a devotee is also free. It's free. You don't need to do anything. It's free. One may be fortunate to have it, or one may not have it even after thousands of endeavors. So there's nothing material that you can do to get devotee association. This is our good fortune. This is Krishna's mercy, Krishna's blessings, causeless blessings. Therefore, in all spheres of devotional service, freedom is the main pivot. Without freedom, there is no execution of devotional service. The freedom surrendered to the Lord does not mean that the devotee becomes dependent in every respect. To surrender unto the Lord through the transparent medium of the spiritual master is to attain complete freedom of life. How wonderful. Because most people think, oh, I need to surrender to a guru. Oh, I need to follow the 4 rules, no regulated principles, no meeting, no gambling, no illicit sex, no intoxication, etc. This is binding me. This is restricting, too restricting. No. Krishna says these are regulated principles of freedom. When you surrender to the spiritual master, you're becoming free. It's real freedom. When you become a pure devotee and you get your spiritual body, that is real freedom. And that's what you're seeking for. That is why, again, no material arrangement can satisfy you, because you are not free, you are bound. What to go about, satisfying your senses? It's restricted. You're bound. So devotional service is the only solution. Freedom in Krishna. That's real freedom. Right? This should be our motto, freedom in Krishna. When we surrender to Krishna, we become free. And you'll see the more you practice devotional service, you start getting glimpses of this freedom. Freedom from anxiety, freedom from, heavy burden of this material world, etc. You become light. The heart becomes lighter and lighter because you're entering the world of freedom. Text 38. Aho devar sirid dan yoham yet kirtim sharanga dan vana gayam madyan idam tantriya rama yatya turam jagat. All glory and success to Srila Narad Muni, because he glorifies the activities of the personality of Godhead. And so doing, he himself takes pleasure and also enlivens all the distressed souls of the universe. Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtan. All glories to Sankirtan mission. So now Srila Sutta Goswami is now glorifying Narad Muni. All glory and success to Srila Narad Muni. Why? Because all he does is glorify Krishna wherever he goes. And he takes great pleasure. Ramatyati takes great pleasure in doing that. Not only does he take great pleasure in doing that, but that pleasure is so intense, so powerful, that it enlivens others when they meet him in association. Prabhupada's purport. Shri Narad Muni plays on his instrument to glorify the transcendental activities of the Lord and to give relief to all miserable living entities of the universe. No one is happy here within the universe And what is left, what is felt as happiness is Maya's illusion. The illusory energy of the Lord is so strong that even the hog who lives on filthy stew feels happy. No one can be truly happy within the material world. Now you find many people will talk about happiness in this world. You do this, you'll be happy. You do this, you'll be happy. It means they're lying. Because Prabhupada in the Bhagavatam is making very clear. You cannot be happy in this material world. Why? Because your happiness is based on your consciousness. And if your consciousness is materially inflicted, according to the three modes of nature, you will experience happiness on those levels, and it has nothing to do with spiritual happiness. So for example, a hog, his consciousness is of animal consciousness, of a hog consciousness. And because he's consciousness of a hog consciousness, for him, eating stool is happiness. But that's got nothing to do with the soul. The soul is still frustrated. Like that, all levels of happiness, even up to the mode of goodness, is tainted. It's not what the soul is seeking for. What the soul is seeking for is real happiness. That means happiness of your happiness related to you, your true identity. So as long as you have a misidentity, you have a misidentity or a false identity, you misidentify yourself other than a servant of Krishna, a spiritual being. That means you will be experiencing material pleasure, which is not real or true pleasure. Srila Narad Muni, in order to enlighten the miserable inhabitants, wanders everywhere. His mission is to get them back home, back to Godhead. That is the mission of all genuine devotees of the Lord, following the footsteps of that great sage. So the test is that Narad Muni is happy doing this. See, he's not doing it out of duty, oh yeah, now I have to go do this, I have to do this service, now I have to chant, oh my goodness. No. And Narad Muni is happily doing this because he's in love with Krishna. And when you're in love with Krishna, you can not stop but speaking about Krishna. So he's doing this, and the power, the secret, or the success is that by him just glorifying Krishna, others are also experiencing that satisfaction. That is the power and the purity of pure association. Prabhupada says, simply by chanting the holy name of Krishna, one can obtain freedom from material existence. So compared to a yogi who's interested in his own welfare in the forest, he's basically involved in the process, in some sort of spiritual process, interested in his own self, selfish. The pure devotees, they are not interested in their own welfare, interested in the welfare of everyone else, completely selfless. Therefore, they travel the world with no hidden agenda. Or let me travel here because there's more money. Or let me travel here because there's more followers. No. They're going under the administration of the divine energy, Devi Prakritam, under the divine energy. They're simply moving according to the will, desire, the pleasure of the Lord, glorifying the Supreme Lord. And in this way, the aim and objective is one, simply to bring everyone back home, back to Godhead, because this pleases Krishna the utmost. Prabhupada says, when a living entity comes back to the spiritual world and sees that soul, Krishna faints in ecstasy. So this is a great service. And thus, we conclude the Bhaktivedanta purports of the first canto, 6th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Conversation between Narada and Vyas. So in conclusion of this whole chapter, I like to share, we heard about the power of the devotee's own experience, Srila Prabhupada's power and potency through his Bhaktivedanta purports. The example of Narad Muni, I'd like to share this wonderful presentation made by the devotee sharing on the pastime of one of Srila Prabhupada's disciples on how he came to the movement. And
this story is about Haridas Prabhu, how he joined in Prabhupada's movement. In 1971-72, he was staying in Mumbai, no parents, no dependents. So to maintain himself, he used to wash cars, do tela work, means carry lifts, items here and there. He was around 12, 13 years old boy. He was doing all these things and all. Sometimes he used to go and steal money also, pickpocket, to get money, to maintain himself. When there is no work, he used to do stealing. Then he found when he was stealing and when he was caught, when he was put into jail, he thought this is the best place. No problem for maintenance. Buta, kapada, makan, everything mil jayega. 3 time ka khana, acha sona, no work because he is a child. So he thought this is the best way. He used to catch purse and go and stand in front of a police person so that he will catch him and put him into the jail. Or he will get into a railway compartment without ticket and he will go and stand in front of TC so that they will catch him and put him into the jail. So somehow in 71 or 72 he was put into jail in Mumbai, and that day, every day there will be local task, you have to clean your own area. So he was given the task of cleaning the dustbins. So at that time, Back to Godhead was the one magazine which was in English that was being circulated in India. So there was one magazine dumped in a dustbin. So when he was cleaning up that dustbin, he saw one photo of Srila Prabhupada in the back, which had Srila Prabhupada posed like this was there, and one gold Rolex watch was there to Srila Prabhupada. So he thought, this is my target. Next I am going to steal this watch from Prabhupada. So he used to keep targets, what to steal. You have to have some inquisitiveness for you to steal and the process and all these things and all. So he was waiting for the opportunity. So after a few days he got released. So he saw the address on the book. So he went to that building that was called Akasha Ganga apartment, where earlier Prabhupada was staying. But Prabhupada had shifted off from there to Juhu land. So when he went there, he was informed, no, everybody had vacated here. They went away to Juhu land. So he went to Juhu land. It was a small hut. It was a forest-full area. So he saw a few devotees there. So when he was standing there, he went to the foreigners. He went and asked them, showing Prabhupada, where is he? I want to meet him. They said, no, he's not here. He's traveling. He'll be coming very soon to Bombay. Then they asked him, who are you, all these things and all. Then he started acting like a fake devotee. I am also a devotee. I also know chanting. And they said, okay, you are a devotee, you can stay here. So because he was a small boy and they were all Westerners, because they don't know local language and he is experienced with local language, they kept him in the ashrama. So they were pampering him, they were taking care of him very nicely. So 3 times prasadam was given, and he was also attending to the classes. So slowly he informed them that he was a thief and he was released from the jail. They did not bother. So they said, you be here, take care of yourself, chanting and do some services and all. So slowly in the association of the devotees, he was reforming. He forgot all about stealing. Then he became a devotee. After a few days, they said, you have to shave your head and you have to wear dhoti and kurta. He said, okay. So he was like a small boy, 12-year, 13-year-old, going around getting all the purchases for the temple. Because if you go as a Westerner to a sabji wala, what is 1 rupee? They will say 10 rupees first. So in that way, they were losing more money. So they used to send this boy, you go and purchase, bargain and bring the best things. So he used to go and do all these things and all. So after a few months, he got to know that Prabhupada is in Hyderabad. So there is a Pandal program and Prabhupada is attending here. So Prabhupada had requested all the devotees from other centers to come and join him there. So this boy got to know that Prabhupada is in Hyderabad. So he went to the temple president and he said, I want to go to Hyderabad. Temple president said, no, there is so much work here. After that program, Prabhupada will be coming back here. No, we have to get the things ready. Then this Haridas was very adamant. He said, are you going to send me or not? If not, I'll steal the money and I'll go away to that place even if you don't give me permission. So when he is threatening, the temple president said, don't do this stealing and all. I will send you with the group of devotees. So he was also sent with the group of devotees, and there when he got down, he went to the Pandal area where Prabhupada was about to give a lecture. Yes, he went and sat in front of Prabhupada and offered obeisances, and Prabhupada is seeing him and he is seeing Prabhupada. First time Prabhupada is seeing an Indian boy shaved up with dhoti kurta, and Prabhupada was not aware that this boy had joined. So when he was sitting there, all these things and all, Prabhupada, after the lecture, Prabhupada asked him to come and meet him. So he was taken into the room. So Prabhupada asked him, who are you, where are you from, all the technical details basically. Then he started saying his name is so-and-so, and he had been here and he was from jail earlier, and he had wanted to steal Prabhupada's watch. That way he had joined ISKCON. Then Prabhupada said, stealing is very bad. You should not steal. Prabhupada removed his watch and gave it to him. From today, we should not steal. Okay, he was doing very nice service. He came back to Mumbai and he was doing nice service and all. So Prabhupada also came back to Mumbai. So his service is every day to go and purchase fruits for the deities and Prabhupada and devotees' kitchen. So sometimes that old habits die hard. So as an young boy, so one day he went out, he saw Cadbury's 5-star advertisement in a big hoarding there. So he became fascinated. So he stole 5 rupees from the purchase. He purchased few chocolates, kept it in his chanting bag, went to ashram, kept it in the DT kitchen, and for Prabhupada's kitchen, he has to go through Prabhupada's room to keep it in Prabhupada's kitchen. He was thinking, chocolates are there, I'm not able to be found because they are in the chanting bag, all these things and all. As soon as he entered Prabhupada's room, Prabhupada was there. Because he saw Prabhupada, he immediately paid obeisances. When he paid obeisances, all the chocolates came out of the chanting bag. So Prabhupada immediately saw and he said, what is this? He could not hide now, he's caught red-handed. So he thought, I'll offer one chocolate to Prabhupada and bribe him so that he will not scold me. He took one chocolate to Prabhupada and said, Prabhupada, this is sweet. So Prabhupada opened and he ate one bite and he said, what is this? What you have given me? It is not good for us to eat anything outside. So he informs him the importance of eating prasad, the food offered to Lord Krishna. Now you gave me chocolate, I am giving you this halwa, eat this. He ate that halwa, the next moment he forgot about chocolate. He threw away the chocolate and he said, this is the best thing I have heard, I have eaten. So that is the potential. Just by being in the association of devotees to the highest category of Prabhupada, he forgot all about stealing, all about chocolates, and Prabhupada is teaching by practical examples. Krishna in Bhagavad-Gita says, Rasavarjam rasopiyasya param drishtva nivartate. By higher taste, we forget lower taste. So in this way, Prabhupada gave all of us different higher taste for all of us. So that we'll be able to hook on to this Krishna conscious movement and engage in the service of Guru and Krishna and make our life successful.
Spread this Krishna consciousness movement. Parama Ananda Kamba. People will be happy. Our mission is to see Sarve Sukhina Bhavantu.
And that brings us to the end of today's session. Next week, we're going to be covering Canto 1, Chapter 7, verses 1 to 7. So if there's any questions or comments, I'm happy to take that. But there were a few devotees that shared their intention and desire that we meet in person, since it's also Kartik. So next week, Saturday, there's the possibility that we could meet either in Lenasia or Senton, or we could have it online depending on the devotees. So there's this link that I'm posting. You can, before Tuesday, you can just answer your options, how you want to attend next week's session, and then we'll go with the majority. I'll also send it on the What's on Telegram group, and then we can decide how we'll associate next week. Any questions or comments anyone has?
Bring some halwa.
Mother Uttaraman David says, unfortunately, I'll be in Durban. You can still join via Zoom. So even though we're going to have it, if the devotees decide either to Lens or Centon, wherever, we will still host it online as well. So it'll be both. Shamananapur says, we have to follow the Mahajans like Narad Muni, who have already chalked out the path to perfection. We thank Srila Prabhupada for modifying the boat, else we all drown for sure. Also, we thank Srila Prabhupada for the purports which give us everything and more. All glories to Narad Muni for teaching us so much. Yes. And we will never be able to thank Srila Prabhupada enough. So it's a wonderful debt, a debt of eternal gratitude. Thank you, Meena, for joining. Mother Les says, Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you for the Krishna Katha. This has been a most satisfying chapter. Yes, very satisfying. That's what Narad Muni also told Srila Vyasadeva. I've shared my life story. And yes, my life story is definitely more satisfying than all the Vedas you put together, right, Vyasadeva? So definitely. Vasastali says, thank you for the wonderful class. Every week becomes more and more relishable than previous weeks. And if we start again from Canto 1, first chapter, then it'll also be even more relishable. Why? Because by going through each chapter, our consciousness is getting purified. And therefore, if we start again, I can guarantee you, you will say, but hold on, we didn't read that. We didn't cover that. That's the nature of Krishna's glories. Amavati Radhika says, absolute wonderful class. Thank you very much, Prabhu. Are we so grateful inspired? Srila Prabhupada gave us everything in the most perfect way. Yes. Vasaraj Prabhu says, thank you, Prabhu. We are reminded all the time to take shelter of the holy name, glorifying Krishna. Yeah, repetition is very good for us to. That is why it is described that every day we should read Prabhupada's books. Why? Because that way every day we are kept on track. We don't stray away. Because remember, spiritual life is a razor's edge. One wrong move and you can get cut. You know, it's like when we're shaving, we can't just be negligent. It's okay. I'm used to this. No, you can cut yourself. So you still have to be attentive. So that way, if we read every day Prabhupada's purports, because Prabhupada is not beating around, you'll see Prabhupada never beats around the bush. Oh yes, you will be able to get happy in the world, just have to try this. And no, Prabhupada is very, very clear. He's cutting, it's like guru, heavy. He cuts to the ignorant. So Prabhupada says it as it is, but wonderfully for encouraging us. So that way, every day we associate Srila Prabhupada's books, we are kept aligned on the path of Krishna consciousness. Jagan Prabhu says, Hare Krishna, regret joining late as we had no electricity and Wi-Fi. You can thank Zoom because we recorded. You can catch up from the recording. Technology, the benefits. So there are wonderful benefits in this world. But the benefits are only as good as we can use them in the service of Krishna. Madhachana Siddhi says, Hare Krishna Prabhu, sometimes devotees prefer to read condensed Srimad Bhagavatam book without Prabhupada's purport. Is that okay? I would say no. Yes, you get the benefit of reading the verses, but the reason we reading associated with the Bhagavatam is so that we can understand, digest, and apply. And the application side of it only comes through Prabhupada's purports. So it's very, very important that, to get an overview of the whole Bhagavatam, you read just the translations, like you want to get an overview of, I remember when I read the Bhagavad-Gita, there was a book called something about the Vedas or something. And in there, they had all of Prabhupada's verses, like in just the English translation. So I read that just to get an overview of Bhagavad-Gita. But really to delve deep into it and to understand it properly and to learn how to apply it, you need Prabhupada's Bhaktivedanta Prabhupada. So it's not bad that they're doing it, but if that's all they're doing, they're not going to get the maximum benefit. They have to, they can read all the verses, wonderful, and then they can start again and go through the purports. Otherwise, why would Prabhupada waste time, inverted commas, giving us Bhaktivedanta purports? Prabhupada never did anything for wasting time. It wasn't like, yeah, I'm retired now, what to do? Well, yeah, let me write a book. No, Prabhupada never, he never did these things whimsically. Everything Prabhupada, even the purports, he didn't just, if you look at some purports are short, some don't have purports, and some are extensive, like we're going to cover next week. First 3 verses are short purports. After that, the next few verses, extensive, over 1.5 pages. That tells us something. Wait, attention. We need to really look at this, because Prabhupada didn't just give, 1.5 page purport because, he had plenty time. No. So very, very important. Right. Yeah. So Madhidasi says, if Prabhupada took time to write it, we should take time to read it. Thank you, Jagannath Priya Prabhu. Vasastali. Nectar is in the purports. Yes. Even Prabhupada would read his own purports because he said Krishna dictated. So it's Krishna's dictation. Asaraj Prabhu. We are so fortunate to go through verse and purport in detail from Canto 1, Chapter 1 to text Chapter 7. And we're going to keep going till death do us part. So, however Krishna desires, we will keep going. Adilesh, Hare Krishna Prabhu. How do you balance the possible aparad, quote, you should not reveal the secret of knowledge to just anyone, versus spreading the message mridanga? How do you practically have conversations with non-devotees? Very nice question. So we don't know if somebody is an aparadi, somebody who's faithless, until you present the teachings to them. So as a devotee like Narad Muni, Prabhupada, and his followers, we will present the teachings to every single soul. So let's say I meet somebody new and I give them a book. I tell them to come to the temple, somehow start a conversation. And immediately I see that they're very poisonous. They're starting to blaspheme. At that point, I know how to deal with that person. So I will stop speaking, I'll stop preaching. Okay. And I will start becoming a friend. Now you can become friends in different ways. So like here you see Prabhupada cooked halwa for Haridas Prabhu. He won his heart. I mean, just consider, it's like the acharya, the world acharya goes and cooks halwa for you. I mean, that's inconceivable. It'll melt your heart. So now if you have a sweet and that person is starting to speak, you tell them, okay, actually, sorry, like I need to go. It was nice chatting to you. Here's a sweet. So you're not burning the bridge, and now you preaching indirectly through prasad, because he couldn't digest because of his animosity, his envy, his offensive mentality. He can't digest the philosophy, but he can digest the halwa. He can digest the sweets. So it's always good to keep sweets, prasadam. So that way he gets prasad, which means a prasad goes in and preaches from the inside out. In that way, if you see him again, just like you may be at the same street, right? Where you just be and he comes again. How are you? Nice meeting you. How's things? Very good. How's job? Very nice. Here's a sweet for you. Thank you very much. No philosophy. Because you know. And you keep giving. 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. After 20 years, and you give him a sweet, sometimes sooner, sometime later. He'll say, you know what? What books you have? And I like to read. Oh, sure. Now you can do it. Oh, you know what? I had a question. My friend was telling me about God, and I said, no, I'll ask you because you're the one that talk about God. So tell me more about God. See how Krishna makes arrangements now to allow him to start speaking. Now you can start sharing the message. So that's how you distinguish, right? You don't make any judgment on any individual. You first give them the philosophy, basic philosophy. We're not this body, we're spiritual beings. We are servants of God. We need to go back to the spiritual world, chant Hare Krishna, and see how they respond. If they respond very aggressively, very inimically, then you take a step back and give them prasad. And even then, if they, still resisting with the prasad, then you just be friendly. Yeah, smile. Let them, just smile at them. And if they smile back, that's called agyata sukriti. See, you were friendly, you smile, he smiled, that is agyata sukriti. In that way, his spiritual credits will increase. Every time he sees you with tilak, he sees this is Hare Krishna devotee, he's thinking Hare Krishna devotee. That's why Prabhupada also wanted us to wear, devotee Vaishnava attire. So when we're walking and people say, oh yeah, that's la Hare Krishna, they dress like that. Even if they don't say it, the fact that you dress like that, in their mind, they're thinking, that's Hare Krishna. Right? People will look, they get mesmerized when they look at the words because we dress strangely. Our clothing is just out of the ordinary. So they think Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. They get purified. And then they'll come. I hope that answered that question. Shamanand says, we can just give a small book, BTG, if he's keen. Yeah. So in that way, we have to know how to deal. But generally, people are, majority of people are innocent, and we also have to give them time. All right. Prabhupada takes gallons of blood to make a devotee. So we have to try. Okay, wonderful. So again, please fill this form in, and we will then please fill this form, and I will then conclude on Wednesday, on Tuesday, Wednesday, where we'll have online as well as offline at a venue, and in this way we can at least meet the devotees, have each other's darshan, and it's Damodar Astakam, so we can also sing Damodar Astakam and offer candles. Thank you very much for everyone's association. We will continue next week. Now we're going to hear how Srila Vyasadeva is going to accept Narad Muni's advice and what he's going to do and how he's going to do it. Now the Bhagavatam is going to manifest. Kvantarat Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Go Pramanande Hari Hari Bo.